Black teacher gets mocked for her accent, but her lesson changes the students forever. It was Ms. Daniels' first day as a teacher at Green Valley High. She was nervous but excited to finally share her love of literature with young minds. She had worked hard to get here, overcoming years of challenges as a single mother while studying late into the night. Her dream was simple, to inspire her students to believe in themselves and never give up, just as she hadn't. As she walked into the classroom, the students fell silent for a moment, taking in her presence. Ms. Daniels had a calm but confident demeanor, and her warm smile filled the room. "Good morning, class," she said, her voice soft but steady, carrying the hint of a southern accent. At first, the students listened, but it didn't take long for some whispers and muffled giggles to break out. "Why does she talk like that?" one boy whispered to another, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I feel like I'm in a cowboy movie," another girl added, snickering. Ms. Daniels paused but kept her composure. She knew this might happen. Throughout her life, her accent had often drawn judgment. People assumed it meant she was uneducated or unsophisticated. She had learned to handle it, but standing in front of a classroom full of young, impressionable minds, it stung. She cleared her throat and continued with the lesson, ignoring the remarks for now. But as the days passed, the mocking didn't stop. The students mimicked her when she spoke, exaggerating her words to get laughs. One day, a student even asked, "Why don't you just talk normal, Ms. Daniels?" She looked at the boy for a moment and smiled gently. "That's a good question," she said. "Let's talk about it tomorrow." The next day, Ms. Daniels entered the classroom carrying a large, old suitcase. The students exchanged curious glances. She set the suitcase on her desk and opened it, pulling out a worn pair of shoes, a faded apron, and a few yellowed letters. "These belong to my grandmother," she began. Her voice was steady, but her eyes glistened with emotion. She grew up in the South, working as a maid. She didn't get to go to school past the third grade because she had to help support her family. But she dreamed of more for her children and her grandchildren. She used to tell me, "Baby, don't you let anyone tell you who you can be." The room was silent now, the students' attention fully on her. "When I was your age," she continued, "I hated my accent. People made fun of me just like some of you have. But then I realized, this accent carries my history. It carries the voices of people who came before me, who worked hard and dreamed big. This accent reminds me of where I come from and how far I've come." She paused, looking around the room. "So, no, I won't change how I talk. Because my voice tells my story. And I hope one day, you'll all find pride in your own stories too." The students sat quietly, absorbing her words. Some looked down, ashamed of how they had treated her. One girl raised her hand hesitantly and said, "I'm sorry, Ms. Daniels. We didn't mean to hurt you." Ms. Daniels smiled. "I know, sweetheart. Sometimes, we don't realize the power of our words. But now you do." From that day on, the class had a different energy. The students began to respect Ms. Daniels, not just as a teacher but as a person with a story worth listening to. Over time, they even started to ask her more about her life, learning lessons that went beyond textbooks. Years later, one of her students, now a teacher herself, wrote Ms. Daniels a letter. It read, "Dear Ms. Daniels, I wanted to thank you for teaching me to see the beauty in people's differences. Your story changed my life, and now I share it with my own students. I hope my voice makes a difference, just like yours did for me." Ms. Daniels kept that letter in her grandmother's old suitcase. A reminder that sometimes, the greatest lessons aren't the ones written on the board. They're the ones written in the heart.